After the end of World War II, there were very few places in Europe that were left more devastated than Poland. The capital, Warsaw, had basically been razed by the Nazis, and around about a fifth of the population had been lost. But if you know anything about Polish people, you'll know that they don't stay down for very long. And from the ashes of that horrible, horrible war came an idea that the communist government of the day decided they were going to try and make a reality. And that is where our adventure starts today. I should probably mention to you there before I head over to the central plaza. After World War II, there were lots of big and ambitious plans drawn up to reshape Eastern Europe. But out of all of the socialist realist style cities that were planned, only two were ever actually constructed. One of them is in the deepest parts of Russia. Maybe we'll go there one day if, you know, things don't kick off. And the other one was here, just built to the east of Krakow. Now we're going to go over to this main plaza, but as you've seen, the roads are a bit busy, so wish me luck. So, probably worth mentioning that the central plaza here isn't actually known as the Central Plaza anymore. No, nowadays it goes by a different name, Ronald Reagan Plaza. Now, I'm not here to criticise, it isn't my place, but if you're going to name your Central Plaza after somebody, did it really need to be Ronald Reagan? I completely understand wanting to go for probably the most anti-communist theme you could go for, right? And you don't get much more anti-communist than Ronald Reagan. But the guy was a terrorist, he was a racist, and he was a warmonger, as well as a war criminal. Personally, I think there's probably about 1,000,001 Polish people you could have named this after that were far more deserving. Maybe some resistance fighters or people who had actually done something for this country, rather than an angry old man who terrorised Latin America. But that's just my opinion. Now the next bit here I'm going to show you is called the Avenue of Roses. Now you might be wondering why it's called that, considering there are no roses. However, back in socialist times the place was adorned with roses at either side, and they led up to what is today a big plant pot by the looks of it. Well, back in the 70s and the 80s, a massive statue of Vladimir Lenin stood there. The thing was massive, it was made out of bronze and it really dominated the surrounding area. Of course, not all of the locals were too happy about it. By that time in Poland, of course, there was a lot of anti-communist sentiment. Some people tried to tear it down. A group of people actually tried to blow it up at one point, and they only managed to damage the foot, which should give you an idea of just how big this thing actually was. Now, socialist realist architecture was designed not only to show grandiose buildings and how we as socialists can build anything that they can build in the capitalist West, but also to show that services could be provided to the ordinary people, to the working man. Now there's very, very few of the shops here that are still the same as they were back in those days. The interiors have all changed and modernised. However, I did manage to find one place which looks very similar to the way it did when these places were first built. Hello. Okay, I won't dwell too long in here, but you get the idea. This is what the interiors of these buildings would have looked like during socialist times. Idealistic and very, very beautiful. It's very beautiful. Yes. Yeah, it's lovely. Really nice. Sorry, I won't take too much of your time. I'm curious. I'm a curious tourist. Just for the avoidance of any confusion, it's probably worthwhile mentioning that Poland wasn't actually a part of the Soviet Union. It was, however, a Soviet satellite state and was therefore heavily under the influence of Moscow. Now, one of the problems they had here was implementing atheism. In the former Soviet states or Soviet satellite states, there weren't supposed to be any religious institutions that had any sort of power. If you're too busy praying to God, you're not too busy admiring the state, sort of thing. You know, that's a simplification, but that was basically the idea. Now, if you know anything about Poland, you know how heavily religious this place is. It's a very, very Christian country, even to this day. So, this particular city was built without any churches, which didn't really sit very well with a lot of people, as you can imagine. So, the place I'm about to take you to next was actually built as an act of rebellion by the local Christian community. Now, what's most impressive about this building, other than its unique modernist architecture, is the fact that it was built by hand, brick by brick, without the help of heavy machinery. Of course, the heavy machinery belonged to the state, and this was not a state-sanctioned building. Now, as an atheist myself, I think it's worthwhile just saying that I really don't condone the idea of taking people's religion away from them, just the same way I don't condone religious people who try and enforce the religion upon me. But this is what happens. This is this very unique and very striking church. This is what can happen when the people stand up to what they deem to be tyranny. By this point in the video, you might be wondering, where does the name Nowa Huta actually come from? What does it mean? Well, translated, it literally means new steelworks. Because the purpose of this city wasn't just to demonstrate to the world a socialist utopia, but also to reinvigorate the crumbled economy of Poland. It wasn't just the buildings and it wasn't just the residents who suffered, the entire economy was in tatters after the war, as you can probably guess. So what they did here was they built the Vladimir Lenin Steelworks, which is an absolutely massive complex that was designed to produce more steel than Poland as an entire country had before the war even began. Like most of this city, it was a very, very ambitious project. Now, today there's lots of buses, lots of trams, lots of life. And there's a tram ruining my audio. Brilliant. Good example, right? But the reason why I can't take you inside here is because it's actually still in use today. People still work here. It's not an old relic, it's not an old abandoned complex. Guys still go to work here the way their dads and their granddads used to. Basically it lasted and it stood the test of time, although it's not called the Vladimir Lenin Steelworks anymore, as you can probably imagine. Some of you might be thinking, is this place really supposed to be what a socialist utopia looks like? Well, that's actually quite a complicated issue. The whole socialist realist architectural style fell out of favour when Stalin died in 1953, and after that his successors had slightly different ideas on how to construct cities. That's why when you go to the central Plaza, you've got all those kind of grand buildings and it looks very sort of unique, and you could tell if it had been carried on for a few more years it might have looked really, really nice. But after Stalin died, what you might describe as traditional Soviet tower block type things started going up. You know, when you think of Soviet architecture or communist architecture, you sort of have this idea in your mind of big, tall, grey buildings that are all the same and there's nothing unique about them. Well, in a sense that is true. But that wasn't the original plan for this place. The original plan was grand buildings, services on every street to cater to the needs of the people, a massive steelworks that helped the economy grow after the war, and of course lots and lots of parks and leisure facilities. The original idea was a lot better than the way it panned out in the end. That's why this place sort of stands as a bit of a time capsule for how not only did socialism change, or communism, maybe that's a better word to use, but it's a symbol of how it maybe didn't work out the way anybody had hoped. Right, well, I don't know about you, but all of this running about is making me quite hungry, so I'm going to go and try and find some traditional socialist milk bar or some restaurant from the time this place was built. See if I can top off my day. Decisions. Well, in the end I decided to go for cabbage and meat inside my dumplings. They look a wee bit, well, they don't look dry, they look a wee bit plain, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be lovely. Courtney doesn't care for traditions, so she just went for a carbonara because, you know. And of course, when there's chips, you must have chips. Right, here goes now. Normally I order quite well, so... You know something? That is a lot better than it looks. A lot better than it looks. You know, I continue to amaze myself with my great ordering skills. Now when that first came I thought to myself, oh, that doesn't look like much, but I'll tell you, I actually struggled to finish it. Brilliant. I only have one minor criticism of this place. When I seen it on my maps and I thought, oh, that place looks traditional, I expected to come in and for it to look like that. I thought, oh great, we're going to go in and see wee busts of Lenin, absolutely excellent. But no, they've modernised a wee bit, which is fair enough, I understand, completely get it, you need to move on. But that's about the only minor criticism I would have. Food was excellent and it's very well priced. Right, well, I think that's enough of that for one day. If you ever get the opportunity to come here, I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you have an interest in socialist history, definitely somewhere worth your while if you're in Krakow or the surrounding area. Alrighty, so thanks for watching again, I'll see you next time.